Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Coin Lady channel. We've been talking a lot about the potential for bank runs and other financial chaos this coming week in light of problems at financial institutions around the world. It's fair to say that this topic has been discussed by every finance professional under the sun. That's why we're seeing XRP gears up for major move and similar headlines in your coverage today. Okay. I'm going to bring this up because one of the musicians I'm going to feature is the subject of a share study by an analyst I've been following for well over half a decade. Also, I find his viewpoint interesting, and it seems to align in some ways with my own. In any case, you need not be an analyst to share this viewpoint. Nonetheless, the assumption that Bitcoin has always been a high-risk investment persists. Hence, just as stock prices fall during times of uncertainty, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies also fall. Many have speculated that the recent failure of several major financial institutions bodes well for Bitcoin. After all, the price of Bitcoin has risen significantly over the past week despite the general mayhem. Okay, I get it. That's a fascinating link, if true. When, exactly, did Bitcoin's price begin to rise? And as I've mentioned many times on this channel, it began rising once the government took action to publicly announce that depositors at failing banks would be backed, they would be taken care of, and they would have their money. At that point, Bitcoin started to react. Might Bitcoin have reacted in the same way if there had been a collapse? As for me, I have my doubts. To be honest, I have no idea. But you have to wonder, where is this going? Since there are now more banks on the brink of collapse, I read a Bloomberg article that gave me some sense of what might happen next in the banking industry. Worldwide, there are significant issues. And now there's today's article from you. An advocate for Ripple is criticized by a lawyer despite Bitcoin's 36% increase. Jim Cramer continues to give bad advice. As for the lawyer John Deaton, that's him they are referring to. And that tale is simply hilarious. Thus, I will briefly discuss the issue. Here's another example from the Daily Hodl. In spite of the ongoing rally, cryptocurrency expert Nicholas Merton warns that Bitcoin is still facing significant headwinds. Let me explain why. First, though, let me clarify something. I come from a completely monetary background-free background. You should not buy or sell anything based on anything I say or write because I am not giving financial advice. Just a hobbyist here that occasionally posts films to YouTube on various crypto-related topics. Further, etc. I still believe that the tale of XRP preparing for a major move depends on the behavior of the rest of the cryptocurrency market, which in turn depends on the severity of the global financial crisis. But a noteworthy increase in the number of new XRP accounts has been noted, which is a metric that I enjoy monitoring. Here, have a look. Data from the XRP Validator website shows that the number of new XRP ledger addresses has been steadily increasing since the beginning of the year, with March 13th seeing the largest rise 2,078 since early January. Hence, there is a degree of adoption here, and a rise in account formation sometimes precedes major swings to the upside in terms of price action. Nevertheless, this is not always the case. A large number of XRP accounts were likely formed around the time of a popular airdrop event a few years ago. Thus, this may be fascinating for other reasons as well. At this time, the cryptocurrency market is extremely active and popular. Certainly not to the same level as the euphoria of 2021, but I believe that we would like to return there eventually. After the 13th of March, when over 2,000 new accounts were made, it continued to rise, albeit at a slower rate. For the sake of this video, I haven't brought up the chart. I'll definitely reference in another video sometime in the next few days. But, on a daily average, it is somewhat lower than that, albeit it is still significantly higher than what we've seen in previous weeks. It's encouraging to see that occur despite the situation. Bankers believe the Swiss government would organize the eventual bailout of Credit Suisse by merging it with the other big bank, UBS, according to a tweet from Fox Business journalist Charles Gasparino that broke as I reported on Fox with at Team Cavuto. Weekends are the typical time for these kinds of things to occur so that they can be announced before the market opens on Monday. Keep checking back for further updates. Indeed, that is the case. That's exactly what happened a week ago in the United States, when the Federal Reserve said that, indeed, they would be bailing out depositors. The news was released on Sunday night. The cryptocurrency market responded quickly and positively. Now, given that this is happening at this very moment, be on the lookout, because you really shouldn't be shocked if, say, something terrible turns out to have happened in the process. It's reasonable to expect the markets to react negatively. Do we really think Bitcoin will rise in value if major financial institutions fail? Obviously, I'm not going to claim that this is physically impossible, but the point I'm trying to make is that, historically speaking, this is quite unlikely. Bitcoin, as I stated at the beginning of the video, is behaving exactly like a risk-on asset. You shouldn't start spiking if there's a lot of turmoil going on. That's not in keeping with their norms. Bitcoin, meanwhile, has not. March 2020 saw a precipitous decline in Bitcoin prices as investors fled the currency in the wake of dire reports of a global pandemic. It is just one illustration. Yet I'm always have trouble coming up with an example off the top of my mind. To put it simply, that's the effect. Nonetheless, it won't be the case this time around. Let's face it, even Bitcoin seems to be dealt with in a different way if we really are living in a time when everything changes and history no longer repeats itself. Really, I'd be open to that. Is that what we're seeing, though, or is this just a temporary disconnect between equities and cryptocurrencies? My hunch is that this is only a temporary blip. But hey, if I'm wrong about that, I'm happy to be wrong about that, too, because I recognize that there are unique people doing this, and I imagine that some of you listening do the same thing. You understand this is a potential downside of keeping cryptocurrency. I, personally, have to say yes. That is not a primary justification. That's why. And yet, that is not how most retail investors approach cryptocurrency. That is exactly my point. But Bloomberg reports that the Credit Suisse crisis is nearing its conclusion as talks with UBS heat up. Regulatory pressures UBS Group, AG and Swiss officials scrambling to finalize a deal for the firm to acquire its troubled rival Credit Suisse Group AG by the end of the weekend. Complicating matters are the fate of the smaller firm's investment bank and the availability of a government backstop. Sources briefed on the conversation said UBS has abandoned its original objection to a transaction and is now investigating various arrangements that might be executed fast to stop a major crisis of trust. According to Reuters, UBS has asked the Swiss government to cover up to $6 billion in potential legal fees in future damages in any deal. Some of the persons stated that Swiss and American regulators had weighed in on the intricate discussions around the first merging of two global systemically important banks since the financial crisis. In spite of this, the pace of negotiations has picked up and everyone involved is eager to reach an agreement as soon as possible. After a week in which Credit Suisse saw clients withdraw funds and counterparties pull back on some transactions, the bank is trying to get back on track. An agreement between the two banks is expected to be announced by Sunday night. The people said that a Saturday occurrence was still probable. Look, there is a chance we might even see something today. But certainly, we won't be surprised if at least by tomorrow's end there is something out there. I just don't know if it'll cause euphoria in crypto markets and a price increase. Bitcoin is still a danger on assets, but if it stops performing erratically, I won't worry about it as much. To fantastic, I think it's super terrific, but I think people are getting ahead of themselves here because there have been brief periods of time you could probably find some, I suppose, where it hasn't been in sync with equities for this reason, that reason, or whatever. It's great with me if we just remember where we saw this and never do so again. Now it acts this way, but in the past it reacted this way because the government did something. Nonetheless, the system was dependent on the United States government guaranteeing deposits. And so I look at that and I think, a lot of people are getting out over the skis on this and believing that it's this new world where all the money is simply going to pour into Bitcoin. If something were to happen, what would cause it? All I hear are horror stories that discourage folks from getting into crypto. Indeed, it appears to be the case. The truth is, I have no idea. What happens next is up in the air for now. Moreover, there's today's tale you told me. While Bitcoin is up 36%, a pro-Ripple attorney criticizes Jim Cramer's forward advice. For some reason, I find this really amusing. This is fantastic. A pro-Ripple attorney recently tweeted that they should change the wording of the tweet. He's an advocate for the XRP legal system. No, that's not the appropriate way to describe him, and he's said as much before without specifying whether he supports or opposes Ripple. It's really starting to grate on my nerves. And so, in any case. Yet, it has been claimed John Deaton, an advocate of Ripple and the creator of the emerging field of crypto law, recently poked fun at Mad Money anchor Jim Cramer for his poor Bitcoin advice. The way he's handling the economy, he might as well be the most infamously inept financier in the history of the universe. With regards to me, how could someone be so uninformed and wrong about everything is beyond me. Nonetheless, he exhibits an excessive amount of assurance in his claims. It is incredibly impressive. And so somebody named Neil tweeted out this tape of Jim Cramer saying, to sell Bitcoin, and he wrote, Bitcoin has gained 9% since Jim Cramer stated I would sell my Bitcoin. Do not take Cramer's advice. A full week has passed since then. In other words, use the hashtag #Bitcoin. After reading this, Deaton retweeted it and thanked Jim Cramer for inspiring him to invest in Bitcoin. Yup. Yes, the inverted Cramer man is a genuine phenomenon, and it's rather funny. Also, the Daily Hodl has this to say about it: despite the current upswing, crypto researcher Nicholas Merton warns that Bitcoin is still facing significant challenges. Let me explain why. Despite Bitcoin's enormous gain over the past week, analyst and trader Nicholas Merton is still skeptical about the asset, telling his 511,000 YouTube subscribers that the macro environment is negative despite a strong correlation between Bitcoin and the Nasdaq stock index. And he said, quote, I have to say that this chart right here, the Bitcoin to Nasdaq ratio, is what has had me most thrilled. Seeing that we've been able to move above the 200-week and 200-day moving averages is clearly a really optimistic indicator. Nevertheless, as we saw above on the previous trading day, many of those gains were erased. I need to make sure it can sustain itself at this level because, historically speaking, things tend to depreciate rapidly after we cross the $25,000 mark. Furthermore, we're currently in a macro situation where the Bitcoin on-ramps are being discussed in terms of the possibility of being shut down by regulators. There is currently a weakening of the banking system that supports these assets. Where will all of that cash be coming from? I'm not denying that buying from the public, speculation, and interest from casual but long-term investors could boost prices. The normal correction of a normal crypto bear market hasn't even happened yet, quotation end. And so the idea of, oh no, just given the macro environment, what is most likely to occur, is where I want to direct most of my attention. And by the way, he's one of the few experts I follow who is just a tremendously popular analyst and acknowledges that this is the truth. Most of the experts I pay attention to, therefore, do not use the terms risk on and risk off in their discussions. They're merely examining data and conducting analysis. But, in light of the macro context, it seems impossible to argue otherwise. And if you want to take a stand and assert that Bitcoin is going to behave very differently from how it has for the past 14 years, you are free to do so. Okay. To be honest, I really hope you're correct. Yet, I believe that many individuals have hopped on board this story. And it's not to Nicholas Merton's credit that so many people are adopting this storyline. Also, I believe that many of these people just lack the necessary background knowledge to address their concerns. They lack the necessary information, but they're also motivated by ideology. They want it to be true so much that they are saying it as if it were, yet this is not a realistic viewpoint. And I believe there will be dissatisfied people. Bitcoin's price may rise more in the near future if the banking system continues to receive bailouts. If banks weren't getting bailed out or bought up by competitors, you know. In other words, you should just assume the debt or deal with the situation or whatever the case may be, given the precise specific facts that might be stated. To put it simply, that's all I can make out of it. So long as that keeps happening. Well, cool. In any case, this is not terrible news for Bitcoin. But it doesn't help it fine in the sense that people will turn the other way if they hear a negative rap about it. My point is that I believe crypto markets would fall along with equities if we weren't witnessing the government bail out depositors and take all these other moves that they are taking. Yes, I'm aware Bitcoin is moving in the opposite direction, but you can still find short-term couplings with equities from time to time. That doesn't convince me that crypto represents a new paradigm in market speculation. However, it is premature to state that at this time. This is the time if. What, if anything, could possibly convince me otherwise? To convince me of that, though, I'd need to witness a situation in which there are bank runs, banks fail, and the government doesn't step in to save them. I'd say yes, new paradigm if Bitcoin kept rising instead of falling. Cool. So, will anyone actually try that? Not in my opinion. It is likely that governments will take action. That will have a devastating effect on the economy. There will be severe repercussions for the economy. You never know how long it might endure. But if the banks are going to be bailed out, if they continue to fail, or if you are going to make sure that depositors are taken care of, that is not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that it's fine if they completely disintegrate and collapse if the government doesn't support them. That's what it would take to convince me, and it would have to convince me for a long time. That is exactly what I need to see. Well, I'm not sure what to say. I could be wrong, and I do admit that possibility, but I think this is a case of people making hasty conclusions. Let me know what you think, guys. Do I have this right? Do you disagree with me? Well, it doesn't matter what you're thinking, that's great. I enjoy engaging in such discourse. I enjoy vigorous discussion but not heated argument. And if you can convince me with evidence, I'll listen. Maybe I'm not seeing something. Maybe not, who can say? Perhaps I'm overlooking something or need a different point of view. So please share your thoughts in the space provided below. This is what I'm thinking right now, however I'd love to hear from you. No, I don't give out financial advice. Nothing I say or write should be used as a basis for making financial decisions. We strongly advise against doing such. Please like and subscribe my channel. See you later, bye.